How are we doing, everybody? Welcome back to the Sean Atwood channel. I'm Ron Swanson. We are here to continue the Diddy case saga. We're here with Tess, Wright, and we're going to be diving into the whole theory behind this cabal cult mentality of Hollywood, the entertainment industry, the music industry, all of it. We're going to be taking a dive into the current affairs of the current state of Hollywood, looking at Diddy, and we're also going to be diving into towards the end, bringing it together, looking at Schneider, who was part of Nickelodeon. But before that, Tess, great to have you back. How have you been, and how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be back. I miss you guys.
Well, yeah, it's great to have you back too. And listen, we're going to just come out the gate. In fact, we're not going to come out the gate for another 10 minutes yet. Actually, now that I think about it, we're going to dance the YouTube dance. So listen, we spoke last time, diving into the mindsets of these people, and maybe we should just let you get started and take us through. We need to speak very calmly because of YouTube. We need to just keep our voice. Imagine you're talking to a very timid 10-year-old and treat YouTube like that for about the next 10 minutes, and we should be fine. But yeah, take us through anything that you maybe didn't cover last time that you want to touch on, or dive straight into the whole cult mindset.
Sure. So I think that essentially when we spoke last, we were talking about Diddy, and we were not only talking about how this was similar to a RICO case, like essentially a mafia case. That's how huge this has become, right? And what's significant about the Diddy case is that this has gone over 10, 20 years. And there's a conspiracy of silence behind it. We know that with cults, like they can never do it alone, right? You have to have followers for a cult leader to essentially be successful. And I think that there's kind of a Kitty Genovese phenomenon, essentially, where there's a conspiracy of silence where, well, no one's speaking up, so I'm not going to speak up, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's almost like the psychology of when people are walking past someone who needs help, and it's not until somebody actually goes to help. Or a more fun narrative is the first person on the dance floor at a wedding, and then everyone gets on the dance floor. It's that mindset, right?
Yes. Yeah. So essentially, and it's what's ironic about that is the Me Too movement. Diddy was supposedly a supporter of that. And then we find out that, all of this stuff has happened. Yes. So I think that with cults, with like, if we think about like Heaven's Gate or Jim Jones, Marshall Applewhite, people like that, they were kind of limited with the victimology. But then with Hollywood, with cult-like behavior, there's not a lot of limitations because the reward is so much greater.
Yeah, it's almost like this in this cult analogy. The victims are drawn to it, whereas in other cults, there's very much you have to go out and find them, if that makes sense.
Yes, and there's like with cults, like I think with Heaven's Gate, with that cult, there were such specific like regimens they had to follow. Like they had to have a certain amount of bath water. They followed these certain rules. But regarding Hollywood and kind of the cult of Hollywood, if we think about it, there's not a lot of rules. Because it's about status, it's about connection, it's about identity. So how big is the reward? And I think that a huge focus on is, where am I now in my life? Where's the reward? And the reward in Hollywood is huge. Connectivity is huge. Status is huge.
I mean, let's be honest. As far as, a regular human being making it based off of talent, Hollywood's it. Hollywood, there's nothing. There's no next level. I mean, Hollywood's where the buck ends.
Right. It is where the
so it is a massive draw. It's a huge draw.
It is. And essentially no gatekeepers, right? So you have really nobody, there's no gatekeepers of rules. So it's all about connection. It's about status. If we think about kind of like a tribe, where what's important is identity. And the identity in Hollywood is being connected to other individuals that are essentially have no kind of boundaries regarding status, they don't have, I feel like with Diddy and we'll get into Weinstein, I'm sure, and with Dan Schneider, they have no crippling self-doubt that other people kind of have. They're risk
Yeah.
takers that are psychologically advantageous, where and if you think about it, if you think of like morality, like psychology and morality is, they don't always connect. So regarding some psychological traits that all of these Hollywood cult kind of, leaders have, like Diddy, Weinstein, Schneider, they're not burdened by money. They're not burdened by anybody telling them what to do. And so they found this niche of people that essentially, we call it in forensic psychology, victimology. So the victims that they choose are vulnerable. They want the same thing that Weinstein offers, that Dan Schneider offers, that Diddy offers, and they're willing to compromise, a lot of their own value systems to accomplish, fame. And that's dangerous.
Yeah, 100%. And we've got Beverly, our remote viewer, coming in on Friday, and she talks a lot about the mystical side, not so much where you're coming from the science side. Now, I'm not saying that you're not into that sort of thing, because I know you are. 1 second, Tess. Carry on with just explaining a little bit further on the mindset, if you can.
Sure, absolutely. I think that it's attractive to a lot of people, especially in Hollywood, when someone asserts themselves so confidently, unburdened by self-doubt. There's certain rules in cults, and there's, this conspiracy of silence that goes on, where essentially people want what these essentially power figures are offering. And, how big is the reward? When people struggle with identity, when they struggle with, kind of their place in life, if we think of tribal situations of, human beings, where it's all about identity, it's all about connecting with other people, it's all about status. So finding an identity in Hollywood means being, acquiescent to certain figures like the Diddys, like the Schneiders, like the Weinsteins. And Weinstein's had like 300, what is it? Oscar nominations. Like, these are huge.
Yeah, that's
insane.
crucial.
Like, Good Will Hunting, right? If you look at the, I feel like with producer wise, like Harvey Weinstein, he's also produced some of the movies I grew up with. So learning that, he was kind of this predator is a huge eye opener. And this has gone on for not 5 years, but 20, 30 years.
Yeah,
and that
exactly.
is unbelievable, that this has gone on for so long.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's like when we look at Weinstein, right, and the Me Too movement and everything that went on there, it's like these different levels of the industry, right? So you've got the kids side, which is Schneider, right? But I almost feel like there's a big difference between the Schneider and the P. Diddy. It's almost like there's stages, right? It's like Schneider was getting them prepared for the next stage, which is where the truly dark stuff comes from. You know what I'm saying? Oh, what is happening? What is happening? What is happening? Just saying hello to the lovely lady. Now, I'm going to play a video. I think a lot of you have seen part of this video, right? And when we start talking about conditioning, and we start talking about putting symbology out there, when we start talking about them rubbing our faces in it and all this kind of stuff, I want you to watch this with me, right? And if this is not in the final edit of this, it's because we got copyright claim, because there's a backing track of ominous sound. So sit back and tell me what you think of this, because this should sum up the brainwashing. This should sum up the conditioning of these young individuals. Let's check it out.
Absolutely.
just excuse my internet, which has apparently just set itself back to the 1990s. Let me just shut down a bunch of stuff here, because you really need to see this in one smooth take, because it is a lot. Right, let's try this again. Apologies, everybody.
You're doing so good. I just want to say, everyone will suffer. Do you remember worried? After party alone. Yeah. What's up? Everyone will suffer. Everyone will suffer.
I'm sorry, right?
Don't be sorry.
But what? Everyone, did you see this little girl's face changed? Look at this little girl, right? Watch her expressions, okay? And then you can pinpoint. There's a change. She's talking normally. She shakes it off. Boom. And then she hits us with everyone will suffer. What? Like, I've seen this clip before where there wasn't any of the speech involved, and it gives it an entirely new context. And when we have, you know, children being put on a stage like this, and we have fully grown men, at one point she had four hands on her from two different men on a stage publicly. And does it really come, is this testament to their arrogance and how indestructible they feel, Tess? This sort of display.
Yes, they feel that they're invincible. The traits that could make someone a star could make the same person an abuser. And so, you know, these traits that essentially could make someone, whatever, psychopathy, narcissism, these psychological traits that are very concerning to vulnerable people. You know, we have CEOs that we know have psychopathic traits. But regarding, you know, the niche of children, it seems that there's a relationship between Hollywood and taking advantage of that. It's like, if you think about the dopaminergic system in your brain, whatever gives us pleasure, like, you know, normal people, like if you're playing tennis, if you're eating Mexican food, if you're, you know,
I'm with you. Of course.
You know, the Diddys of the world, the Weinsteins of the world, the Schneiders of the world, they have to almost take advantage of people to feel anything. And that's dangerous. And whether subconsciously, whether consciously, the Diddys of the, you know, Diddy has found this niche of people, of children, where he creates dependency upon them with him, and he gets off on that. And that's extremely concerning. It is barbaric. It's been going on a lot longer than most people want to admit. And it's gone on a lot longer than people in Hollywood have admitted to. And shame on the people that have kept quiet for 20, 30 years. You know, when people are reaching a certain status, why don't you reach out? Why don't you? Because there's a certain kind of fear there. But essentially, I feel like everybody in Hollywood that was a victim of Diddy was waiting for somebody else to come forward. But if no one comes forward, what do you do?
Yeah. Listen, I totally agree with what you guys are saying in the side chat about it's from a movie, all of this stuff. Like, that's the point, though, right? Is that a little girl has stood on stage saying everyone will suffer, and everyone's okay with it because it's from a movie, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's don't be fooled by the intricacies or the simplicities of the grand plan in some aspects, because I mean, it is with what we know now and what we're looking into the black with, it tells a different story. And you guys can disagree, and I'm fully on board with everyone having their own point of view, so don't worry. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Make sure you guys are sharing it out for sure. Now, who else do you think displays these sort of similar traits that are around Diddy or stand out for you, Tess? Is there any more Hollywood players that you think are sort of showing themselves through their actions effectively?
I think Epstein was a huge one. I
Okay,
think
yeah.
Weinstein, absolutely. Weinstein and Diddy, I think, have a lot of similar, personality traits that maybe the media has missed.
Okay.
I think when we think of cult figures, we think of the Jim Jones, we think of people like that maybe Charles Manson. But when we think of Hollywood, it's taboo because think of who our role models are, right?
Sure.
Who is, a 13, 14, 15-year-old's role model? Beyonce, Jay-Z, Taylor Swift. Why do we choose to, adopt the values and belief systems of people in Hollywood over maybe a great journalist, maybe, a physicist, maybe somebody that's kind of a pariah, but we tend to, especially with the youth, value, the opinions of people that are in Hollywood. Why do we do that? Why do young kids, essentially succumb to the belief system of adopting Jay-Z, Beyonce, even Diddy? So it's concerning. And regarding American media, we know that it's conspiracy hat test is coming on.
That's all right. That's all right. We can handle that.
Good. I hope so. We need another show about conspiracy hat tests rather than forensic psychology tests. But regarding
balance it out.
American news, it's the same thing. It's the narrative. So, certain psychologically advantageous traits don't follow a moral compass. So people can get ahead, like the Weinsteins, the Diddys, because they find this community of people that they're willing to take advantage of. And when they become role models, it's extremely dangerous. And there's no gatekeepers of it. There's nobody saying you can't do this, because when you're unburdened by money, when you're unburdened by anybody telling you what to do, I'm going to get into like New World Order stuff, but it becomes a very serious issue. And shame on the people that have kept quiet for so long. I understand, like, someone coming forward, you're going to get ridiculed. You're going to get ridiculed by the media. You're going to get ridiculed by powerful people. You're going to have people coming after you monetarily. But what's more important to you, your life or fame and status? And you have to decide that in Hollywood. I feel like, do you want to follow a moral pathway, or do you want to follow a pathway of, I'm going to, adopt my identity after somebody I look up to? And unfortunately, a lot of the traits of the Weinsteins and the Diddys and the Epsteins and the Schneiders, they're able to essentially pick a niche of people that they can take advantage of. And it happens over such a long period of time. And, it's unbelievable how long they can get away with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the scary part for me is when you delve into the Schneider side of it all, and it's almost like he was picking and cherry picking these young up and coming child stars who, have a lot to say about Schneider and the things he'd done. We're talking about a man that took the company he was working for's logo and turned it into a foot, because that was his main fetish, was in feet and kids' feet. And
I just saw a bunch of clips about that regarding.
It's wild.
It is. And I grew up with like the Amanda Show. I loved Amanda Bynes. I even had a neighbor, my friend Morgan, who was like, "Oh, you look like Amanda Bynes." Like, we loved her. And looking back, I'm 34 years old, and looking back at some of the clips, I am shocked, that the foot fetish situation, he essentially had an intercom where they had to report to him. He's like God. I'm like, where are your parents? Where are, I mean, I know my mom, shout out to my mom, would never have been okay with that.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a long line of weird things that Schneider's done. But the reason that I wanted to talk about Schneider tonight was the fact that we see this sort of path, right? We have Diddy and the music industry. We've got Weinstein and the film industry. We've got Schneider and this children's entertainment level. Okay. And it's almost like there wasn't the same level of atrocities to the same extent of Diddy, but it was almost like preconditioning for abuse. It feels like you're cherry picking the ones that you know you can hand over to the next part of their career. You know, they've earned it effectively, and it's just really, really disturbing when you jump into the Schneiderverse.
It is the Schneiderverse. Is even
the
him coming
Schneiderverse
on the documentary Quiet on Set and trying to, you know, kind of defend himself, I thought was so manipulative, unbelievable, because he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew it was not innocent.
Yeah, I mean, here's a couple of minutes of that. What you were just talking about there, Tess.
The show, I could see the hurt in some people's eyes, and it made me feel awful.
That show, the shocking, headline-making ID Discovery docuseries Quiet on Set.
How safe can any kids be in that environment?
It uncovered the dangerous culture behind Nickelodeon's popular teen TV empire that began in the 90s.
Hostile work environment, actual pedophiles on set.
That led to victims of child sexual abuse. And now, Dan is speaking out.
Working for Dan was like being in an abusive relationship.
I wish I could.
So, if you've not seen this, guys, I suggest you go watch it, because it lays out like this foundation of control, and it extended past the young actors and actresses into the writers, controlling them, making them split jobs, all this madness. But of course, when we look at Nickelodeon, and I think a lot of us will have memories of like this kids being slimed and gunge and all this kind of stuff. And I tell you what, looking back at that now, it's all a bit weird and creepy. There was a whole series that the young actresses were meant to be doing where they're putting stuff on their feet and putting it on the Twitter for then other young kids to do things with their feet. And all of this is happening in an environment where children's entertainment and children's safety and well-being should be at the forefront. You know, that's an obvious statement. But this one, I honestly think there was more to this with regards to the bigger meaning behind Schneider and what he was doing. Have you got anything you want to throw at Schneider before I play this next clip, Tess?
Sure. I think that, I mean, I grew up with the Amanda Show. I loved Amanda Bynes. I related to her. I was heartbroken to realize kind of the path that she had, she took. But I think that regarding, exploitative niches, that Dan Schneider had this, unfortunately, psychological, whether subconscious or conscious predisposition towards taking advantage of young people. And being creative follows no kind of moral pathway. And he was creative in the way that maybe at the time, people could write off like the feed stuff as funny, but now we know that, no, this isn't about humor. This is about exploitative measures of children.
Do you think in the mind of someone like Schneider, right? Do you think in the mind of someone like Schneider, he feels like he's doing them a saving grace by it just being their feet? Is he doing a saving grace because, there's so many monsters out there, right? Do you think that there's a level where these people convince themselves that they are the better option for these kids because it could be so much worse, in that predator mindset?
I think that with the Schneiders of the world, I think he's more similar to the Diddys and the Epsteins and the Weinsteins than we think. Especially since I feel like he consciously targeted children, that the personality traits with proclivities for harassment, he found a group of people that he could definitely take advantage of. And, the commonality I find between all of these men are that they essentially are risk takers. So Schneider could say, well, I'm taking a risk of like doing this feet stuff. It's funny, when we know now that it's disturbing and it's harmful. So essentially, I think that if you think about like psychology, it doesn't always follow a moral way, right? So they all have these personality traits that essentially lead them into being harassers. And we're just now starting to kind of pick up on that. It's hard to believe that somebody that we grew up with could do this. It's hard to believe that somebody that we, created a show that we loved, or a band, or a movie that we loved, could actually be in it for nefarious reasons.
Yeah. And
that's difficult because we looked up to these people. So I feel like the Schneiders, they see careers that allow them to exploit other people. And whether it's subconscious or conscious decision, it's still wrong.
Yeah, well, that's a great point as well. Morgs in the side chat just pointed out there was so many actual predators, like dangerous monsters, and I'm not saying Schneider isn't, that were allowed to run rampant there. So it's one of those things where it's kind of, it's the company you keep as well in this situation, and there's definitely a bigger story. But to put it in context, like Dan Schneider, there was nobody better in the world during Dan Schneider's time than Dan Schneider at writing stuff that kids wanted to watch. This is why he managed to go and run amok. It's the same with everyone. It's the turning a blind eye to what's going on, because the story of this is deep. Well, listen, I've got an hour clip here, which is clips of Dan Schneider making others uncomfortable. So let's sit back and see how uncomfortable he makes us.
Wants to know, if you could fill a pool with, get out of here. Sorry. Wants to know if you could fill a pool with anything you like and swim in it, what would it be and why?
Confetti, because it's a celebration in the pool.
Okay, that makes no sense. Yeah. Miranda.
Pineapple juice.
What? I didn't ask the question.
Oh, sorry. Well, I heard. I was thinking this whole time.
Okay, the question is, if you wanted me to hit you with a bottle of something, what would it be? Pineapple juice? Okay, here comes.
What I can say is, what can't you say? I mean, honest to God, I could go on and on about all the wonderful qualities about Miranda, but I know time permits, and I will consolidate it to just this one thing. In all the years I've known Miranda, I guess 9 years now, she hasn't.
You excited about the run through?
Yes, I am. Really excited.
Who do you have here?
Sister Mays.
What?
Yeah, Sister Mays. She plays my girlfriend on the show.
Oh, it's too bad I didn't cast a pretty girl to play your girlfriend. Oh no, that's a little joke because you're ridiculously beautiful. No. Hi, cuteness. Hi, cuteness. Hey, you weirdo. You are. You're cute. Admit it.
Paige wants to know, if you could fill.
Yeah, there was one bit in particular in this. Like, I'm not being funny, okay? But when you've got a room full of adults and professionals, okay, and another man puts his hands on a young actress like this, and no one reacts, okay, then this is every day, right? This is every day. This is just a normal occurrence, right? And that's testament to just the level of what everyone around him was witnessing. And we often talk about the true darkness isn't what people see on the outside, but when you have this level of, projecting your wants of children onto children in public like this, it's testament to a bigger, darker picture. Do you not agree, Tess?
I completely agree. I think that, that certain, obviously creativity doesn't follow a moral pathway, that he might have these traits of where he's creative and that where he's, essentially insightful in what he thinks will be successful. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have these psychological issues where he's exploitative and he's a predator. And, what better way to essentially, I mean, look at him, right? Like, if he hasn't gained power and control in his normal life and status, Hollywood, if you have some sort of creativity, if you have some sort of, you know, like ability to write, like if you're a good writer,
Yeah.
like obviously, let's be honest, right? Weinstein, he was a good producer, like Good Will Hunting, there were great films created from him.
Sure.
Does that follow a moral compass? No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Does it mean it's a good movie? Sure. Does it mean he's subconsciously or consciously taking advantage of people? Yes. Same with Dan Schneider.
Yeah.
Does that mean that the Amanda Bynes show was a success? Yes, it was. I loved Amanda Bynes. I watched it every day after school. I'm 34. Like, she was my doppelganger, kind of. My friend Morgan would say you're the same, but
do you feel guilt, like, thinking back about how much you enjoy these shows? Like,
oh yes, when we were preparing for you and I coming on live, I started to kind of revisit certain things from the Amanda show and
yeah.
iCarly and things like that, and I was shocked because my, you know, 9, 10, 11-year-old mind just didn't comprehend that maybe,
Yeah.
you know, this was not okay. But whatever kind of, if you think about the like dopaminergic system of the brain, the reward chemical, you know, it comes to a point where the power and control and the status that the Schneiders, the Diddys, the Weinsteins have, they need to push the boundaries of, you know, having victims. And that's, it's unbelievable and it's sad and it's
Yeah.
coming to light now, but you know, it should have ideally, there should have been repercussions decades ago. So
No, I'm with you. Yeah, 100%. But then let me ask you then, there's the fact that none of this gets dealt with when it should be dealt with. There's got to be this grander picture. There's got to be people pulling the strings behind it. It can't simply just be, oh no, it's another predator in Hollywood. We better try and clean it up for a public image. Like there's got to be something greater. And
sure.
Do you think in this Diddy case, from a mind, you know, from the mental side of it all, do you think we're going to start seeing people cracking and breaking and coming forward with more information with regards to the celebrity side? Because I think the fear that Diddy puts in people, and I think the fear that losing everything that you have as an adult isn't necessarily there when you're a kid, like it was with Schneider. Do you see what I mean? The
Absolutely.
sensation for loss is greater. From a, you know, should I come forward and say something? Not necessarily from the kids that had things done to them by Schneider, but people observing things. Like, do you think we're going to see a psychological breaking point for some people?
I do. I 100% do. I think that, you know, in grad school, I studied the kind of Kitty Genovese phenomenon where, you know, there was a woman named Kitty Genovese that was being attacked and nobody said anything because they assumed that someone else would say something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if no one else says something, nobody said anything. So essentially, we hope that someone else will come forward first. And in Hollywood, that's complicated because say that it's 20 years ago and the Diddy stuff, the freak offs, all that stuff is happening. If I come forward, I'm going to become a social pariah, right? I'm going to become and I love Jaguar Wright. I commend her for coming forward. I'm going to be labeled a conspiracy theorist. I'm going to be labeled as someone that is,
by
you know,
design, though, right? It's by design. You know what I'm saying?
That's by design.
Yeah.
Yes. So do I want to risk losing my career, losing my status, losing my connectivity to everybody, losing my financial security to come forward morally just because of the fact that it's the right thing to do? And I think that the problem with Hollywood is it doesn't follow a moral compass. It follows a status and identity and a connectivity compass. And, you know, essentially it takes a very brave and a very, you know, there's a truth seeker and then there's somebody that cares about, you know, essentially status. So do I want to seek the truth and do I want to expose the truth, or do I want to maintain the connections in Hollywood that I have because I know I'll make money? I know I'll retain my status, and that's extremely dangerous. And like that, you know, for this is like the Weinstein, the Diddys, this is 20, 30 years in the making. That is unbelievable. That is absolutely it's so disappointing.
Yeah, that's Tess's link now in the side chat for the mods. Apologies. Make sure you go and subscribe. Tess is going to be launching our content very, very soon. Feel free to ask us any questions as well this evening. It's a very much an open discussion into this whole cult mindset within Hollywood, within all of its facets and its sections. But before we continue, I just need to do a little bit of shameless self-plugging for tonight. We've got Courtney Burgess live dropping bombshells, photographs, media, stories, all kinds of madness concerning around the Diddy case. You do not want to miss this at 9 o'clock. I'm telling you that right now. Tomorrow night, we have got Jaguar Wright coming on with Big Homie C. It is going to be an absolute mad one. Again, at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Make sure you don't miss that. Tomorrow night as well, I am on at 8 o'clock with Lost Mines, looking at all of their spooky footage that they found deep underground in mines, lost tunnels, all that stuff. It's going to be freaking awesome. Then Friday night, we've got Rob Long, who is Diddy's ex-producer, dropping more bombshells and telling his stories and his interpretations and his encounters with the Diddler. And also on Friday, we have Beverly Rhodes Part 2, our incredible psychic remote viewer. And that's where we're up to. And we've also got the Daily Show and a Royal Mess for those who want something a little bit less stressful than just Diddy. So let's just circle back. Let's get back on the Diddy trail. I think we've people are kind of understand the Weinstein and the Schneider side now a little better. How there seems to be handlers-ish when we finally cancel Michael Jackson. I think he's cancelled into the ground. Do you know what I'm saying? It's one of those ones. I mean, how much further canceling can we do? Like ejecting into space, just out he goes. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Whatever side of the fence you sit on with Michael Jackson, it's one of them. So circling back to this, the cult of Hollywood. How far do you think this cult goes? I mean, I know how far I think it goes. I mean, people are pointing fingers at Oprah. People are pointing a lot of fingers at Oprah right now, and things like this. Do you have any sort of inclinations to how far you think this goes, or Diddy's connections go? Because I mean, I believe in the cabal. Feel free to go tinfoil hat Tess if you want. But do you think, what is your opinion on the grander picture of this?
Like grad school forensic psychology test off.
Yeah.
Conspiracy hat on.
Yeah, correct.
Like my personal. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I used to bother my professors about this a lot, and can you just stick to your kind of protocol? No. I think that my conspiracy side is going to come out regarding, I think I knew of an actor named Isaac Cappy who essentially exposed Epstein and certain people and then was unalived. I have had journalist friends that have mysteriously been unalived, like Michael Hastings, people like that. So I have personally been affected by really brilliant journalists who have tried to come for predators, for people higher ups in the government in Hollywood that have been labeled as pariahs, have been exiled by news stations, and rest in peace, Michael Hastings. So I think that this goes, it doesn't stop with the Diddys, the Weinsteins, the Schneiders, that this goes deep, and that elite Hollywood is in bed with politicians. It's in bed with the New World Order. And that's just Tess, my personal life.
I've got another banger for a tinfoil Tess in a second, right? Just so you know, we're into the it's after 7:30 now. My brain is just it's on the conspiracy stuff. So a lot of people are talking about let's just say Kim K and call them the K family. You all know who we're talking about here, right?
Hi, Karen. Yeah.
So do you think, right, there's the possibility that this is a massive what's the word I'm looking for? It's not cabal, coven of
a cult.
Well, no, the K family in general, Do you think there's a lot of people going around us now talking about they're these witches, they're a coven, look what happens to all the men in their life, all of this. Do you think they could be at the center of this story in a bigger way than we all think?
Yes, 100%. I think that, if you look at pictures of, before we came on this live, I kind of looked at the guest list of the Diddy parties. Kim K, Khloe Kardashian, they were right there. I think that they're huge players in the whole conspiracy of silence. If they wanted to, they could have come forward. They chose not to because they value their status, their identity, their connectivity to people that are successful over any moral compass. And that's dangerous. And unfortunately, with our youth, that we value, like, why do we essentially value Kim Kardashian with politics, like, or science, or, why are they our role models? Why is that happening?
Yeah,
why is it not,
Here's the thing. There's Tommy Scoville. Big shout out to Tommy Scoville. So listen, tinfoil hats full on now. We're going to staple them on. We're not taking them off, right? So
I don't want to.
I believe, right, that we're looking at a situation where the 1% and these celebrities, these witches, they know about a way of worship that we don't. So I've been saying all week that sitting at a computer like this and looking at pictures of the Kardashians and projecting all this love and positivity is awfully like just going into a church and kneeling down at something religious in front of you, an altar or whatever. And there's a woman, right? And I just need to point this out, right? I often say, when it comes to the people involved in this, it's the people that we don't know and we've never heard of that are the most dangerous in this. And then we came across a woman the other day, right? And this is Vogue, all right? Just to be clear, this isn't like, oh, Sally's Instagram. This is frickin' Vogue, all right? And this woman is a huge stylist in the USA to all these celebrities. She is known as the Empress of Darkness, of course. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Featured in videos with celebrities, politicians, all of this, and you've never heard of her before in your goddamn life. And take a look at this woman. This is what she turned up to Vogue to get pictures taken in, right?
Michelle LeMay.
Yes, right. Do you see her fingers here, how they're black?
Michelle LeMay.
One of our viewers, right, pulled it out the bag. All of the pictures of her, right? Well, not necessarily all of them, right? But a very large amount of these pictures of this woman. She has got these blackened fingers. And I'm going to put another one up on the screen. And the reason I'm mentioning this is the analogy that was used in the side chat, which was beautiful, was, hey, in Disney movies, when the good guy touches a bad book or a devil's book and their fingers start going black, right? I was like, damn, emulating this corruption. And this woman is super famous, more famous than you could ever imagine. Frickin' Vogue fashion legend. What? So when you meet a woman like this who is happy to project this level of, open inverted comment, alleged darkness, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with being a bit edgy, right? But
no.
This woman is rubbing shoulders with some of the most powerful
everybody
people, right?
ASAP Rocky, Rihanna.
And I'm just saying, if you were a famous person in Hollywood, right, who was like aware that people think you're a bit satanic-y and maybe there's some stuff going on, this is the person to be photoed with if you're trying to do away with that narrative. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay? There's a deeper meaning when women and high priestesses and all this kind of stuff go on. Hang on a minute.
It's like a Marina Abramovic kind of situation.
Hang on a minute. Oh, I'm pushing the wrong thing here. Well, here's the thing. Fashion is for the rich and unserious, but isn't it just been an absolute travesty for getting kids to wear things and do things and move kids around without suspicion that are high profile? I'm not saying that there's definitely, possibly billionaires that are getting facilitated through their needs, through, young child models that are being brought here and there. I'm not saying that at all.
The Balenciaga ads.
yeah, that was a whole thing in itself. Like I did a 3-part series on my channel, Project Rook, called something, I can't remember what it's called, but it's all about Balenciaga, and we do 3 nights of it, and we go not just into Balenciaga but into its country of origin, its owners, and various other businesses that seem to facilitate some very suspicious activities regarding minors. But I just listen. I also, as well, I'm not criticizing anyone how they look, but I'm just saying, like, if that's your PR photo, you are pretty damn good at your job, okay? Because if you're putting that out there as your PR photo and you're still smashing it in your career, you are amazing at your career. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, this was the new face of my fever dream demon that I was introduced to this week, and I just wanted to share it with you all. So what do you think about these sort of, and this is a big allegedly, right? So if allegedly this is a high priestess, and allegedly she's there to facilitate some culty, worshipy stuff.
So
and
we're going to be
and we were already looking at
Tess.
Yeah. And we're already looking at the egos of Diddy, right? Where do you think individuals like this fall on the ego scale? I mean, this to me is a whole level of untouchable that we've not covered.
It's true. No, and I'm excited to cover, and I think that we should 100%, because so essentially neuroscience, forensic psychology tests had off conspiracy.
Yeah. Ron, listen, I've used all of my intelligence in the first half hour of this show, and I've no more smart things to say. So I've got to drag you down. I've got to drag you down to my level. I thought that side chat might have helped me with some questions, but you just all watched me flounder. So it's fine. But we're now this is a result of it. We're tinfoiling it now, side chat. Okay, I'm not telling you you've got to do my job for me, but I'm just spelling it out. Okay.
No, you're very smart. I think that Michelle LeMay, I've looked into her. Her connection with A$AP Rocky, with Rihanna, with these huge celebrities, unbelievable. I feel like she's kind of up there with the Marina Abramovic, right? The spirit cooking, the Lady Gagas, there's this whole essentially, and like I said, this is Tess conspiracy hat, the spirit cooking, essentially dark magic is very real, and I would be a disservice to my own identity if I didn't acknowledge that I believe that that's true. And I think that these people behind the scenes are very powerful, and I think the Michelle LeMays and I think the Marina Abramovics are very powerful, and they, essentially not only propagate creativity, but they allow for more guys behind a niche in which there could be more victims, and that's dangerous. It's scary.
I agree. And Abramovich is another one who her claim to fame is popping up during the whole pizza scenario. And I found a picture. Here we go. So I couldn't show you the first version of this picture because nipples, right? But this version right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Lady Gaga right here, all right, and this is Abramovich or whatever the freaking name. Okay, and this is a person lying in a big tub of delicious syrup or something. It's definitely not blood, guys. Okay,
definitely
not. It's definitely not blood. Okay, definitely syrup or something. Okay. Now, I don't know if this is a person. I imagine this is a person, but she's also renowned for cakes that look like actual large human bodies, right? And listen, again, I would much rather you got a murder cake and ate that and killed that, right, than murdered a person, okay? So it's all of this symbology, right? So again, when we talk about conditioning, right? Obviously, you bearing witness to somebody several times over your lifetime consuming cakes that look like people, all right, might eventually get some people to the point, well, is it really that big a difference if it's a real person? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think one of them. If I may say that the commonality between creative people, and I'm not saying that, some of the greatest creative persons of all time have created great art, great sculptures, but people regarding politics, that whatever kind of dopaminergic systems create happiness for us, they need to take it to the next level. So what can give me pleasure? And unfortunately, I feel like Marina Abramovic and people like that they do the spirit cooking, they invite celebrities because they push the boundaries of like, they can only receive dopamine or feel a reward chemical if someone's suffering. And that's where we draw the line. At one point, do we associate, happiness with, people feeling good versus happiness with people suffering?
I agree. And I'll tell you something right now. All of the people that are at the top end of this, the Diddys, the Abramoviches, all these people, they are not born capable of love. Okay. These demons have no use for anyone capable of sympathy, empathy, love. It doesn't work for them. Now, I just want to throw another image up here. So this is Abramovich, right? This is her here. She's a bit of a spicy meatball. All right. So if you look here is one of her cakes, right? That was devoured. And that was in the shape of a human. You can see the head here. This is the spirit cooking conspiracy where we've seen the Podestas with a mangled finger on the left hand. And a lot of these celebrities who are accused of this seem to have injuries there. We see this artwork. Nothing suspicious about that at all. Super cool. I've not seen what this is, so I don't know what this is.
I feel like Podesta, who's a huge political influence, has art hanging in his home that's regarding that.
So. There's actually a statue hanging in the Podesta's house that is
Jeffrey Dahmer,
a bronze statue of a decapitated Dahmer victim doing the crab pose
backwards. Yeah,
super cool, man. Super cool. Edgy Podestas. Whoa, like mental.
There's edgy and then there's mental.
Yeah, well, plus, I mean, I'm not being funny. If I'm in politics, I ain't having bronze death statues anywhere. Like, it's just too much. It's just like, no, these people do not help themselves.
I remember, if I can just interrupt, like, I remember in grad school learning about Jeffrey Dahmer and kind of serial killers. And I kind of had felt that Jeffrey Dahmer was, a little bit different than the Ted Bundys and the John Wayne Gacy's. I felt that he was kind of a little bit more intelligent, moral. And then I found out that kind of the way that he left, some of his victims, I found out that Podesta had that statue. And then that's when I kind of got into how politics are tied into violence.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when the pizza emails were leaked, and we seen the Clintons emails, all of these things that were leaked, and the references to pizza and hot dogs, and then what the FBI subsequently released. I would be quite curious to see how many really good FBI agents over the last 7 years have mysteriously got pneumonia as well, because I guarantee we ain't hearing about them. I'm telling you that right now. We ain't hearing about them. So
no, definitely not. No, 100% no.
Here's an interesting one for you. So big homie, right? He 6 years, Diddy security. And in those 6 years, doctors tested him positive 3 times for cyanide. And cyanide develops into pneumonia inside you. And how often in this case, in the Diddy case, and in Shimsham in Hollywood, have we heard pneumonia? These people are suddenly taking substances they've taken for their whole life, and they're getting super ill from it, and all the rest of it. We have the whole Jamie Foxx. Have you looked into the Jamie Foxx side of things, Tess?
Oh yes.
Okay, yeah, well, let's touch on that for a second. Give me 90 seconds. If you just want to begin touching on Jamie, that didn't sound right. If you want to talk about Jamie Foxx, and I'll be right back in 2 minutes. All right.
No, you're fine. I think that the Jamie Foxx situation, I think that essentially he was manipulated and he was ready to come forward. He was completely taken advantage of. And, I think that what people don't understand is essentially that Hollywood is all about connectivity, about status. And it preys upon whatever predispositions you have to your subconscious. So, do you have psychopathic tendencies? Do you have tendencies for empathy, and Jamie Foxx was kind of a pariah. But, you know, when he had kind of admitted that he was taken advantage of and come forward that, you know, that's something that needs to be taken seriously. And that regarding a lot of people, even with Diddy, with they're starting to fall rank to people that came forward first. So it's always difficult too. Like if you think about it 20 years ago, if someone came forward and said, I'm a victim of Diddy, would they be laughed at by the media? Would they be labeled right?
I mean, here's
would
the
they
thing.
be labeled as like a social pariah? Would they be, you know, associated as being crazy?
Yeah. Well, listen, I've just realized that we actually have Tommy Scoville starting right now on this channel. I completely have missed a live stream and have, this is today, right? Diddy latest shocking news with Tommy Scoville. That is happening right now. Let me just get you guys a link. And Tess, we will be back with you. Do not worry. Now put in the side chat put a 1 for regular Tess, put a 2 for tinfoil hat Tess. Which of the two you prefer? I am going to go and post a link right now for the next live stream. You will all be shunted over there anyway. But apologies. At least I caught that. Unless Tommy tells me that I've got the wrong day because he's in my side chat right now. But I imagine, 8 o'clock today. Brilliant. Smashed it. Brilliant. I'm nailing it. All right, so everyone, thank you so much for being here. Thank you very much for all your support. You guys are awesome. And see you on the next one. For me, as always, Ron Swanson. Be safe out there. Peace.